Tom, you don't even know this, but you and I were at Mavo together. It was the first time we were in the room together. And you probably wouldn't know or remember this, but I ate breakfast one morning sitting across the aisle from you in the little restaurant there.
Okay.
And I could not work up the nerve to come talk to you.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Yeah, that was probably going back 6 or 7 years.
That probably had to be Mavo 2018.
I think it was 18, yeah.
Yeah, that was my first time presenting at that one.
So I caught that presentation. I've known about you ever since. I run into you occasionally at Uncle Roy's. I've seen you speak at VO Atlanta. May have seen you speak at Dallas. I can't remember. Would that be right?
At One Voice, yes. I was there last year and the year before.
They all merge together after a while.
They do.
Tom Dheere is known as the VO Strategist. He's a wildly successful voice actor himself. Like me, does a lot of corporate stuff, a lot of e-learning. We'll talk about that. But he also helps voice actors with the strategy of their careers. Please welcome, if you will, my burgeoning friend, Tom Dheere with an H. Tom, it's good to have you, man.
Thank you. The H is silent, and you'll wish I was by the time we're done.
I do want to start with your origin story as a voice actor. How did it all start rolling for you?
It started in 1994.
Wow.
So it was 30 years ago it started. I was a classically trained theater actor. My goal was to be a working Shakespearean actor. That was what I originally wanted. And I went to the National Shakespeare Conservatory here in New York City. It was a 2-year program. I left after 1 year for various reasons. So I was a little adrift. I was living at home. I was like 21, 22. And my mom was reading a copy of a New Jersey Monthly magazine. And in the back of it is all these classifieds and want ads and stuff. And she said, "Hey, Tom, what's voiceover?" And the only thing I knew about it back then, it was an occasional side hustle. Side hustle wasn't even a term back then, but it was a side hustle for film and TV and theater actors to do in between real gigs, real acting jobs. That was all I knew about it. And she said that there's a coach nearby, a voiceover coach. Her name was Hope Noah. She was a voice actor. She was a DJ on NPR Radio's New York affiliate, WNYC, for many years. And she was also a voiceover coach. So I gave her a call. She said, "Sure, come on over for a diagnostic." I went to her home. She, read this, read that, asked me some questions. And she's like, "Yeah, I think you've got some potential to do this." So I worked with her for about 6 months, purely on commercial, because frankly, Paul, there really were almost no other genres back then. I mean, there were people doing cartoons and stuff like that and narrating books on tape. I can't even call it audiobooks back then. But so I worked with her for 6 months, and then I recorded a demo, which I have here. It's my little cassette tape.
There it is. Look at that.
Yes, it's very exciting. little fold out J card.
Absolutely.
Spots on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bought the 5-minute cassettes from Broadcast Supply Warehouse. I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah. For me, it was PSI Multimedia.
There you go.
In I want to say Montvale, New Jersey, and I would order cases of demos, cassette tapes, and I would print out the J cards myself, and I would go to Staples and get piles of padded mailers.
Yep.
And stuff those, and then eventually turned into CDs. But man, did my post office hate my guts.
Oh, sure.
They're like, "Oh, great," because I would come in with like a lawn bag full of padded mails. They're like, "Oh,"
and that's great. The way we did it back then, and we thought nothing of it.
Right, but I recorded the demo at a studio in New Jersey. It turns out that the guy who runs the studio is now my comic book partner. I've been producing a comic book for a while, and he's my business partner. We've co-produced this comic book, Agent 122. If anybody wants to go check it out, Agent number2.com.
Shaken, not stirred.
What?
Shaken, not stirred.
Yes. This is a cyborg, female cyborg from the future.
Oh, wow.
So it's a whole thing. But anyway,
Very cool.
but when I finished everything and I got the demo and all that stuff, and Hope gave me a little certificate, which I still have in a filing cabinet somewhere. She gave me a ream of Xerox copies of production company listings. And she's like, here's your certificate. Here's all these production company listings. Start your cold calling and good luck. Now, this is like spring of 95.
And that was your marketing training.
That was my marketing. That literally was my mark. She didn't even tell me what to say. She's like, just call them. That was literally my marketing training. That was the whole thing. Because also remember, there was no social media. There were no pay to plays. There was no home recording. I mean, your average person didn't have a website. There was nothing like that. So I would cold call sometimes 50 times a day or more to production companies, advertising agencies, marketing firms, all kinds of things all over the place in the tri-state area. And it took me a year to get my first voiceover. It was a public service announcement for herpes awareness. What's interesting about it, besides that, is that the company that booked me wasn't a company that I cold called. It was a referral from a different production company that they were friends with that I did cold call.
There you go.
So cold call, direct marketing, turned into referral, indirect marketing, which turned into my first voiceover gig. So how about that?
You never know how the seeds are going to sprout, right? You just sow them and wait.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you started in 93. You said it was before all these technologies that you named. One you didn't name was digital video. You've been in this long enough to see the trajectory and the arc from us literally sending out demos on cassettes to now the generative AI era dawning on voiceover. Is that the biggest change? Is it the technology? Is it the reads? Is it how we do business? What to you has been the biggest change in the last 30 years?
That's a great question. It's also interesting, just zooming out even more. I'm Gen X.
We both
Gen X is the generation, as you know, that was born with 8-track tapes. We were born in an analog society. And now we are in this digital society. So the boomers were before us. The millennials were after us, but we are straddling straddling the space age to the information age. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. That's a very, very apt description.
So we're in a very interesting position prospectively, socio-culturally, politically, economically, logistically, to kind of see where we were born into, which is what came before, and what we're living in now, which is just so different. So that's part of the filter for your question. I'm going to say cultural. I mean, yeah, the technology constantly changes. It constantly evolves, and it's gone from, and before I started voiceover, it was reel to reel. So there are voice actors that are running around which had reel to reel demos, which was the generation before me. But cultural.
In what sense?
Awareness that voiceover exists at all as a vocation,
right,
as a trade. When I started, it wasn't. Nobody knew about voiceover. Your average person didn't think, I want to be a voice actor. It just, I'm sure there were some people out there watching cartoons or whatever being like, oh, I'd love to do that. But then they just dismiss it because that's as far as it goes. There was no Google. There was no, there wasn't like a Yellow Pages where you could look up the local voiceover school.
Right.
It just didn't exist. So awareness, and the awareness is obviously a result of technology, as a result of home recording, social media, digital, and all that stuff. It democratized voiceover. Many more people became aware of it, which is cool. But cultural, because for the first 90 years of voiceover, the only people that were allowed to do it were people that looked and sounded like you and me.
That's right.
And now there has been a grossly overdue market correction where the people who are talking into the microphone look and sound and are like the people who are listening to the things that we say in the microphone. So it's been democratized in that just the general public is aware that voiceover as a trade exists, but now it's a trade that anybody can try, of any ethnicity, of any gender, of any location, of any lifestyle, can give it a shot. And talent will rise to the top, training will rise to the top, self-discipline, acumen, all that stuff will still rise to the top. But now it's like everybody can give it a shot, because you could have all the technology changes in the world, but if it's still gate kept by old honkies like you and me, then like, is it really changed?
Right. That diversity has been a hugely positive thing. And it feels to me, and, time since the pandemic has been an accordion, right? Something to me could be 3 months ago, it could be 3 years ago. I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
But it seems to me we sort of had a Me Too-like movement that seemed to center around guys like Hank Azaria, right? Where we were now beginning to very quickly and very suddenly call out white guys, generally white males, taking roles that had been, that we've always had. But now there was, as you say, a market correction and a hyper awareness. It feels like we hit that Me Too moment, I want to say, 4 or 5 years ago?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah. You believe that's largely positive, yeah?
1000% positive. Now, the only negative side is for the old white guys who had it good for so long. And all I can say to them and you and me is that we just need to be better storytellers.
Thank you. We now have to swim in a bigger pool, guys like you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That forces us to be better. And in an age of generative AI, where it's, and tell me if you agree with this, is AI going to take out the bottom end of the market?
I'll put it to you this way. I recently had a conversation with someone who had been a successful voice actor on Fiverr and is not as successful now. And apparently, this is secondhand information. So, and I was trying to find a way to verify it literally yesterday. I wasn't able to do it. But apparently, voiceover revenue on Fiverr in the past few years has dropped by about 70%. And it is attributed to AI. So I had been saying for years now that the lowest hanging fruit is what's going to get consumed by AI first. And the lowest hanging fruit are the $5 jobs on Fiverr and the very low no pay stuff on Upwork and Backstage and Twitter and other places like that. So if this secondhand information is true, then yeah, generative AI is doing it. Because here's the thing about Fiverr, just to sidebar for a quick second, is that there are ethical voice actors on Fiverr who are getting paid industry standard rates through Fiverr. Yep. Some are making six figures. Those six-figure people aren't making their money $5 at a time. They're making them $500 a time or $5,000 at a time. And that's fine. Totally cool with that. And you know what? They're not even auditioning. So good on them.
Right.
They build their gigs, they optimize their profile, they do their thing, and they're getting good work. But there are also a lot of voice actors who are getting paid $5. And I want to stress, American voice actors who are getting paid by American clients $5 to do something that should be $500, which I have a huge problem with. So if they are willing to pay $5 to an American voice actor, which is 99% or 999% less than it should be, or whatever it is, then clearly they will have no problem spending pennies to pay an AI service to do that voiceover. So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me in the least. So yeah, AI is here. AI is making its way through the voiceover industry. AI is causing the voiceover industry to contract. Is it going to contract 5%? Or is it going to contract 95% over the next 2 to 5 years? I have absolutely no idea. But what I do know is that if you are an aspiring voice actor, or if you're a voice actor at any point in your voiceover journey, your job's to be a better storyteller than the AI.
Hear, hear.
And the best way to do that is to get theater training, on-camera training, improv training, opera training, or stand-up comedy training. That will be just as important, if not more important, than your voiceover training. Because if you know how to tell a good story and get layered with the VO 101 training and the genre training, you should be able to step over that relevance gap and be able to be effective in voiceover when all of these low-hanging fruit / entry-level jobs may vanish.
Agreed. I agree 1,000%. I also, my spidey sense tells me that in addition to AI, that slowdown on Fiverr has another factor built into it. And you can tell me whether you agree or not. We had a huge influx of untrained and undertrained talent during the pandemic. And I feel like part of that contraction of the business is those folks starting to precipitate out of the business. Agree or disagree?
That makes a lot of sense. That tracks, because I don't know. I'm sure the Fiverr company knows how much voiceover revenue was being generated pre-pandemic. I agree with you. I think that there was definitely a surgence or a spike of some sort of voiceover people being or people being drawn to voiceover. They do their Googleizing, and the first thing they find is Fiverr. They dive in with no training and recording in their bathroom.
Right.
They dive in, and then after a while, they're like, I can't make any money doing this. And then they exit stage right. Now, were those people generating revenue? Probably not. Maybe a few of them. I guarantee there's a couple of people. Like, I know for a fact that during the pandemic, I was having theater and film actors coming to me for my mentorship program saying, my career is gone. I can't act anymore. I can't, there's no, Broadway shut down, the TV studio shut down, everything is shut down, help. And there were a couple of people who I actually helped along as a voice actor. And then when they got their feet under them with voiceover and the theater TV scene started to normalize, they went back. That's where they went back to, which is totally cool. But yeah, I think also, how much have you noticed in the Facebook groups or other social media platforms, people that are selling all of their voiceover equipment?
Honestly, I myself haven't seen a ton of that, but I also don't look for it. So,
Well, right. I've been noticing it a little bit more here and there, and people who have been trying for a while, for years, who I have had as students or I've just seen in conferences or whatever, are leaving the industry because they just can't generate enough revenue to sustain themselves.
And that's why folks like you and I exist, so that we can hopefully help those folks along. That's a pretty good segue into the VO Strategist part of your career. How and when did that come about? When you said to yourself, you know what, I think I have something to offer other voice actors here. Let me see if what I have, the experience that I have, is of value to other people. How did that happen?
October 2011.
Wow.
It was the weekend that I attended my first voiceover conference.
And that would have been what, FAFCon?
It was FAFCon, exactly. It was FAFCon 3, which back then it was one of the only conferences around. Now you can swing you can't swing a microphone around without hitting a conference. But it was an unconference format, which meant that there were no speakers, presenters, or sponsors. Only 100 voice actors were allowed in, and they had to apply and be evaluated. And if you attended, you had to contribute in some way, which meant we set the agenda. We decided what we wanted to talk about. And it could be as something like somebody did prepare a full-blown presentation, which I did, or some people would just say, I have a question about home recording. And then they pick a ballroom, and anywhere between 2 and 50 people would sit in the ballroom and talk about home recording or whatever subject.
Right.
So I did not think I deserved to be there. I assumed everybody was more talented and more successful than I. A voiceover friend had to convince me to go, because this is 2011. So I did my first voiceover in 96. I went full-time in 2005. So I've been a full-time voice actor for 6 years. So yeah, I deserved to be there.
Absolutely.
But that was just my imposter syndrome, insecurity, whatever. So I thought to myself, okay, well, if I'm going to go, I'm going to present something, and I'm going to prove to them and myself that I deserve to be there. So I did a presentation on how to write a mission statement, how to set annual goals, and how to write a monthly action plan. I had that knowledge because I'd been doing that for at least 8 or 9 years doing those things. I know I started the mission statement in 1997 because that was the year I read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by
Stephen Covey.
Yep. And then action and annual goals and action plans came quickly after that. So I had already developed these systems. So I thought, okay, maybe this is something. Now, what I did not know, with the exception of 1 or 2 people, no one in the voiceover industry had talked about business or marketing as a voice actor. Just nobody really had done it. There may have been one other person that had done it before me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, only 100 people were allowed into FAFCon, and I got like the smallest ballroom, and 50 of the conference attendees, so literally 50%, showed up for this. There were people hanging outside, like with the door open and sitting on the floor and all that stuff, because everybody wanted to see what I had to say. Not because nobody wanted to see what I had to say, but they wanted to see what I had to say.
Sure. The material, not the speaker, right?
Right, because who the hell am I? So I did the presentation. I even brought somebody up and walked them through how to write a mission statement and the goals and everything, and it was very, very well received. And not long after that, I got an email from somebody said, expect a phone call. And I got a phone call from somebody who runs one of the voiceover schools, and said, hey, I would like you to be one of my instructors. So yeah. So I literally got discovered at a voiceover conference.
How about that?
A couple of years after that, I came up with the VO Strategist branding. So it's been almost 13 years. So I didn't tell the industry I wanted to do it. The industry told me that I should do it.
Nice. Well, in that regard, you and I come at it from different sort of origins, right? I thought maybe I've got something to offer. Let's find out. And of course, I had to test it and all that. But you came in. Your test was at that conference, and that's fantastic. That's live and probably a lot scarier than what I went through. So
it was terrifying.
I'm sure it was. Let's talk about the VO Strategist part. What, first of all, explain to our audience what you do as a VO Strategist.
Well, it's my tagline. I help people navigate the voiceover industry. You'll find that my logo is a compass. So that's literally what I do, because people decide they want to be a voice actor, and most people, they don't know what they don't know. They go to Google, they type stuff in, and then Fiverr comes up and other places. And they may be talented. They may actually get good training. They build a website, they build a home recording studio, they produce their first demo, they get that demo in their hands, and they say, now what?
Yep.
I'm the now what. And that's what I used to say for a long time. So I used to say, you can only work with me through my mentorship program if you have those things in place. But I have since changed my view on that, because you don't know what you don't know at the beginning, because also you don't know, who to work with as a coach, how to build that website, how to set up that home recording studio, who you can trust for quality training. So now I'm happy to work with anybody at any point in their voiceover journey to help them navigate. And I've also worked with people with 20 plus years of experience in the voiceover industry, because all the stuff that worked for so long stopped working. And they're like, Tom, what happened? Which is why it's so important for me as the VO strategist to make sure that I understand Fiverr, and I understand AI, and I understand other things that some find polarizing or controversial, which they're really not. They're just tools. And understand how they work, why they work, so I can provide data so that all of my students can make informed, thoughtful decisions about how they want to navigate the voiceover industry. If someone says to me, I want to make 6 figures on Fiverr, I'm like, great, let's make it happen. If someone says, I want to go to LA and do Pixar movies and be in high-end video games, I'm like, cool, let's make that happen. Most of the time it's somewhere in between, e-learning, corporate, commercials. I want to get 1 or 2 agents and all that stuff. So that's how I help them. So in the broadest sense, that's how I help them navigate the industry. And I do that through my video library. I have a VO how-to library, which is streaming videos. You can watch them, buy them one at a time. I have rental specials where there's always 1 or 2 you can rent for $5, where you can stream them for 72 hours, or for $20 a month, 6-month commitment, you can subscribe to it. So you can stream as many videos as you want and watch them as many times as you want. And then there's the mentorship program, which is where we, in addition to the video subscription, we do a 30-minute check-in every month. And you're basically paying for an accountability buddy, but it's a lot more than that, because what predates the diagnostic, what predates the mentorship session is a diagnostic, where I lift up the hood of their voiceover business and figure out what's going on, try to figure out what all their knowledge and skill gaps are and what they need to work on to help them realize their definition of voiceover success, not the loudest jerk in the Facebook group's definition of voiceover success. Right.
Yeah.
No offense to voiceover Facebook groups. They're all lovely, but that's what happens a lot, is people get steered really the wrong way in social media because they're asking questions that are answered by people that don't understand the question or are just so biased. Like, Paul, why don't you wear my glasses? They help me see better.
That's right.
Why don't they help you see better? And if you don't wear my glasses, you're a jerk.
Right.
That's what happens a lot culturally on social media. So that's why I am versed in Fiverr and voices.com and AI and all the things, because these are the realities of the voiceover industry. I need to understand them so I can help people understand them and decide whether they want to use them as a tool to get them where they want to go.
So you've been doing this a hot minute now. You've worked with dozens, I assume hundreds of voice actors over the course of well over a decade. I'm going to ask you about commonalities. Are there maybe one, maybe a handful of common strategic mistakes that voice actors make with their career, either early on or later on?
I'm going to half answer that question first and say that the biggest commonality is that the reason why most voice actors don't succeed is because they can't get out of their own way.
What does that mean?
They can't get out of they can't get out of their way because they don't know what they don't know, or they have assumptions about themselves or the voiceover industry, or what is or could be their relationship to the voiceover industry. That is generally what hoses them. So understanding Source Connect or, SAG-AFTRA collective bargain agreements don't matter, because if they don't listen to themselves and don't listen to the voiceover industry, they're not going to get anywhere. So that's why I think that's why 90% of voice actors that fail, why they fail, is because they just don't know how to listen to themselves or the industry. But strategically, it's interesting because everybody screws up in their own adorable way. Usually the biggest strategic mistake is one that's unfortunately often impossible to fix because of lack of resources, which is they don't know what they don't know. They do some Googleizing, they find certain demo mills that charge them exorbitant fees where in only a few classes you'll get a demo, and then they have horrible training and a ratty demo, and they can't afford to repeat the process. And now they're stuck. And they don't know what to do. They don't know how to navigate the industry anyway, even if they got good training and a good demo, which you can't get good training in 4 or 5 sessions. You just can't. And then they're just boned. And like I said, often they can't do that again because it's $4,000 or $5,000 or whatever that they're just out, and it will take them years, if not decades, to save up that money again to do it again. So that's one of the biggest strategic things. Farther down the road, the reason strategically why many voice actors screw up is because they refuse to adapt. They refuse to evolve to what's going on in the industry. There are many voice actors that I know that have behaved themselves out of the voiceover industry because they cling to old technology or old ways of doing things or old incorrect assumptions about pay-to-play sites versus direct marketing. Or they've just decided that all AI in every iteration is profoundly evil and is an anathema, an affront to the senses of all true artists. And anyone that even looks at AI, and I'm looking at an AI camera right now, so clearly I'm the devil, has no business being in the in the arts at all. And that sort of myopic, stubborn, backwards looking behavior turns into strategic mistakes of not what to do, but what not to do. And then they wonder what happened to their voiceover industry, their voiceover business.
Yeah, we all know voice actors who have very strong opinions, based on, for lack of a better term, the decade in which they got into the industry, right? It's almost like the guy that you went to high school with who's still listening to the same music, who's still, living in the same town, right? We sometimes, I think we develop a frame of reference and we never evolve it. So that makes absolute sense to me. We've danced around AI quite a bit here, Tom. What is your take? Is this something I mean, obviously the genie is out of the bottle. Is this something that's going to decimate the industry? Are we going to work alongside of it? How do you see AI affecting us in, let's say, the next 2 to 3 years? Because God knows, even that's a far flung prognostication now.
Yeah. Well, as someone who cloned their voice 2 years ago, that'll
Wow.
tell you a little something
So that was even
about.
before ChatGPT and what we consider the current wave of generative AI. You were on this early.
Yeah, I was actually. Now that I think about it, yeah, my voice. I think my voice went live May or June of 2022, and then ChatGPT was November or December of
Yeah.
2022, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Um, if you are a lousy storyteller, AI will eat your voiceover business. So if you are a non-talented hack who just has no business being here, though I'll never tell anyone not to pursue their dreams, and I know I'm not the most talented person in the world. I don't have a naturally whatever voice, but I got good storytelling training. I got good voiceover training, and I have been consistent and persistent, which is which is why I'm a successful voice actor. But also, if you don't have your business hat on, the AI is going to eat up your voiceover business. And that can mean everything from, you know, auditioning for a text to speech thing on some casting site, and then they steal your voice and then create permanent conflicts, and then you can never work in the industry again. And you did it for $2,000, which sounded like $2 million when you saw that casting notice. But I think that AI can and should complement the voiceover industry, because like you do long form e-learning stuff, and you may have mispronounced a name or a place or a medicine 32 times. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just have your AI just do those retakes and be done with it? I mean, wouldn't that be nice?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be nice if, you know, some celebrity or politician wrote an autobiography, but they're lousy storytellers, and you as a narrator could narrate that book in the style of that celebrity or politician, and then they use AI to skin their voice over yours, and you still get paid and you still get the credit for it, and you were still being an artist. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? So I have no problem with these things. Our friend Karin, talks about how nobody can narrate the New York Times overnight. And people who are blind or visually impaired have as much of a right to ingest the New York Times as any sighted person. Wouldn't it be nice if they were afforded that? And when your AI voice narrates the New York Times, you get paid for it. Obviously, you won't get paid as much for it, nor should you, because ergonomically, you're not sitting there doing the session,
Absolutely.
but you should get paid for the usage. And that's the thing with AI, is that, you know, I'm happy to not get paid a session fee for something my AI voice is doing, as long as I'm getting paid some form of usage for how those audio files are being used. Because while my AI is over there doing that, I'm over here doing this or doing a different project. So yeah, I think that pretty much spells out, you know, my views on AI.
So, as one of the, we'll call you a pioneer because you're one of the very few voice actors that's been in this for even 2 years, to have a cloned voice, an AI model of your voice. For somebody today sitting down going, should I not? What are the big considerations when you're evaluating whether or not you want to dip your toe into having your AI voice clone made?
Well, first thing, you need to see if it aligns with your value system. Are you comfortable with this as an artist? I'm an artist. I'm a theater trained actor. I trained at Shakespeare and Chekhov and ballet and all of that stuff. So I'm an artist, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me I'm not an artist. So, but if AI offends you, if it offends you that a blind person can enjoy the New York Times, then don't do it. That's a real ratty way for me to frame that.
Sure.
But
I get your point.
Oh, well, you know what I mean? So if it aligns with your value system, if you're comfortable with being an artist over here while your AI is doing a phone tree over there, and there are people who would argue that telephony is art, all voiceover is art. All of it is. Every genre, it's coming from a human. It's a performance. So yeah, there's a level of art in all of it. But then it's like, okay, but it's a telephony thing. And if the generative AI is able to convey what needs to be conveyed in the most mildly engaging manner, which is about about the level of telephony, needs to be intelligible and mildly engaging and informs the listener. For this press 1, for that press 2. Yeah. And again, some people are like, no, I won't even go there. That's unacceptable. Now, if you're able to reconcile it with your value system, well, first of all, you got to realize, like, there are new AI companies popping up every day, and there's AI companies going out of business every day, being sold every day, merging with other companies every day. It's happening constantly. Just in the couple of years that I've been marketing myself and my AI voice, or when I was looking around to find an AI production company to do it too. Some of those that I had meetings with 2 years ago have gone out of business. So also think of it this way, is that how many Paul Schmidts do they need on an AI roster? 2, 3,
maybe
at most.
Maybe.
And guess what? You're immortal. So they never need another Paul Schmidt sound-alike unless you have whatever provisions in your contract where if you pass away, your data files will be removed, or if you choose to part ways with the company and they are not allowed to use your your voice audio files anymore. So if you're going to do it while you can, because the other thing is that tech is trying to eliminate humans from the equation altogether. So there are production companies like Murph, which is the one that I cloned my voice with, who is using human voice actors to generate their audio files and then making their text-to-speech stuff. Great. And I get paid. I get a quarterly payout. It's not much, but it's something. Hopefully it will grow. So do it quickly. And the most important thing is have a good lawyer. Rob Siglan-Paglia is at your service. He'll be happy to review the contract to make sure that your IP is being protected and you're getting compensated in a way that you're comfortable with.
That's the best advice I could ever give anybody, and you nailed it. We're at almost 40 minutes in here, Tom, and I looked up and I expected it to be 20. This time has flown by. I've learned a ton. I hope our audience has learned a ton. Where can people get in touch with you as the VO strategist?
I recommend going to voiceoverstrategist.com, or VO Strategist for short. Give it a whiff, give it a sniff. There's a lot. My website is very broad and very deep. There's a lot to look at and check out. Book a free 15-minute consult with me. I'll be happy to chat with you about whatever you want regarding the voiceover industry. I also recommend subscribing to my YouTube channel and Paul's, the VO Pro. It's great. It's a great YouTube channel as well. Follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn, and vet me. Go to tomdheere.com, because I think, with the exception of Mary Lynn Wissner and a couple of other very special people, you need to be a full-time boots-on-the-ground working blue-collar actor to be able to effectively dispense performative marketing and business advice, to be effective in the voiceover industry. So vet me, look at the work that I've done. It's not like I played one flash-in-the-pan cartoon character 40 years ago. Like, I'm working constantly, and my website shows that. So check me out at tomdheere.com, book that free 15-minute consult at vostrategist.com, and we'll see if I can help you navigate the voiceover industry.
There it is. Tom Dheere, the VO strategist. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to educate me and our audience today. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.